The Lubeck F224 is a German event frigate added in the Wargame Strategist event. It's similar to the Cullen F220 I reviewed previously, however numerous changes to damage models, shells, and the battle rating of the ship make it worth reviewing again. I've already talked about the history of this class in that review, so I'll get straight into its performance in War Thunder. The Lubeck F224's primary armament is two 100mm 55 caliber MLE Model 53 cannons. These cannons have a high fire rate of 60 RPM, but overheat pretty quickly. While their initial dispersion is alright, after a few shells the increased dispersion from overheating makes them unusable outside of very short range. I would recommend firing them in short bursts at longer range and only going full auto in close range situations that require it. For shells, the 100mm only gets two kinds, HE and HEVT. The HEVT is vastly superior. Despite its lower explosive filler, it deals significantly more damage per shot due to some weird hidden modifiers on HEVT shells. While it is 20 SL a shell, its vastly improved damage per second is worth the SL cost, and it will easily earn back the money spent. The HEVT is also useful against aircraft, especially when paired with the Lubeck's radar. I would recommend bringing full HEVT for the 100mm gun, since there's no real reason to use the standard HE shells. For the Lubeck's secondary weapons, it gets 6 40mm Bofors L70 cannons split into two dual mounts and two single mounts. With the arrangement of the cannons, it can get a minimum of 2 guns and a maximum of 4 guns onto a single target. The Bofors L70 is incredibly strong, being effective against both air and surface targets. It has a high fire rate and good dispersion, though it also overheats very quickly, leading to the dispersion getting significantly worse after a few seconds of sustained firing. The Bofors L70 also gets two belts, HET and HEVT. Just like on the main gun, the proxy fuse shell deals more damage and is more useful against air targets. It's also 20 SL per belt, but the cost of the shells is pretty easily earned back through the extra damage dealt. I would recommend bringing full HEVT on the 40mm cannons, since again, there's just no reason to bring the standard HET shell. For secondary weapons, the Lubeck has a pretty mixed loadout of 4 Mark 34 torpedoes split into 4 single tubes, 10 depth charges split into 2 rails, and 96 Bofors M50 anti-submarine rockets split into 2 quad launchers with 11 full reloads each. The Mark 44 torpedoes are pretty weak. They have a slow top speed of 56 km per hour, a 5.5 km max travel distance, and a very tiny explosive warhead of 54.4 kg of TNT equivalent explosives. They're not really worth bringing since they don't add much to the kit of the Lubeck. The depth charges are depth charges, which are most certainly depth charges. The M50 Bofors rocket, on the other hand, is the single most enjoyable weapon I have ever used in War Thunder. With a massive explosive charge and a very high arc, the M50 Bofors can be used to knock massive chunks of health out of enemy ships, even from behind cover. The high explosive charge makes it roughly equivalent to hitting with a 250 kg bomb, so they can cripple or kill most targets with a single good hit. It can only fire about 2.5 km forward, though over the sides of the ship the launchers can depress further down to engage targets at ranges of around 1 km. They do have a very lengthy reload of around 30 seconds each, however. I would highly recommend taking the M50 Bofors rockets on the Lubeck, since they're just a blast to use and open up a lot more damage potential and strategy for the ship. In survivability, the Lubeck is pretty alright. It only has 238 crew, though the low freeboard makes it difficult to hit the hull, leading to it surviving much longer than it may seem it would. It won't stand up to sustained fire for long due to a lack of armor, but it does well enough in most cases. In mobility, the Lubeck is below average. It only has a top speed of 59 km per hour and relatively slow turning and acceleration. This is a bit of an issue on larger maps and makes dodging torpedoes harder, but it doesn't really impact it that much in normal matches. As far as the gameplay style, the Lubeck is a pure brawler and damage dealer. It excels in close range combat. Between the high damage of the 100mm cannons, the overwhelming fire rate of the 40mm cannons, and the indirect fire capability of the M50 Bofors rocket, the Lubeck does best when it can get into close range and punish any other ships that try to approach or hide from it. Use map cover to get in close, and when enemy ships try to do the same, punish them with the M50 Bofors rocket over whatever they're trying to hide behind. In direct combat, swap back and forth between the 100mm and 40mm cannons as needed, using Alt 1 and Alt 2. The 40mm generally has a higher DPS at close range, especially against larger ships like destroyers where its higher dispersion doesn't matter. I would recommend leaving the AI targeting only air targets, as having them fire at surface targets keeps both guns in a perpetual state of almost overheating. By swapping back and forth in combat directly, both gun types are given time to cool off, allowing for a higher and more consistent overall damage output. The M50 Bofors can deal severe damage to ships at close range, and even with a miss, the blast tends to cause ships to roll and knocks their guns off target. The Lubeck does struggle at long range due to its relatively short-range weapons, though with proper overheating management and aiming, it can still win many duels at longer distances. The biggest weakness of the Lubeck F224 is up tiers. It sits at the very precarious BR of 4.7, meaning you can either be down tier to face Clemson's or up tier to face Brooklyn's. In up tiers, the best thing you can do is to spawn a different ship. With no AP and very weak torpedoes, the Lubeck is almost useless in a 5.7 match. All it can really do is farm AI vessels or fight other unlucky players who got similarly up tier. Against cruisers, even at close range, it is nearly impossible to effectively deal damage. The only saving grace is the M50 Bofors rocket, which can deal pretty significant chunks of damage to larger vessels. Try to get into very close range using map cover, knock out the enemy's turrets with the cannons, and then try to aim a rocket directly into their ammunition and hope for a lucky detonation. So, is the Lubeck F224 worth it? I would say yes, but with a few caveats. While it's a strong ship with high reward modifiers, it is effectively useless in up tiers. It's very fun in the right situation, but you just kinda have to accept that in some matches, you've lost purely due to the BR of the ships you're facing. It's the only vehicle in the Strategist event that requires 2 documents, so in that sense, it's the only reward at its tier, meaning there's no direct alternative to it. I'm not sure what price it's going to end up at on the market, though I would say it's a hard sell once it's past 40 Gaijin coins personally. However, it will likely end up being more expensive than this, and I can't speak for everyone on the monetary value of an in-game vehicle. It's worth noting that the repair cost of the Lubeck may also increase, as its sister ship is sitting around 40,000 SL at the moment. However, the market price may also go up if the top BR of cruisers is extended to 6.0, because then it won't have to face top tier anymore and will become significantly more effective. The sister ship in the tree is debatably better, having less torpedoes but having significantly better ones, other than its crazy high repair cost and need to be grinded manually. The Lubeck is alright as a grinder too. It has surprisingly excellent SL gains, however can only research up to tier 3 destroyers before reward modifiers cut the gains down drastically. Overall, I do recommend it, it's just worth noting some of the downsides the vessel has as far as up tiers and grinding. For modifications, the Lubeck comes with everything unlocked, along with a talisman. For crew skills, I would recommend leadership, main caliber reload speed, crew interchangeability, fire prevention, and ship control. Thank you for watching. As a quick update, while I initially said I was slowing down to 2 videos a month, it's looking more like 8 videos a month since I figured out that I'm not a fan of higher mathematics. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more naval content. I'm going to be putting out a lot more in the months to come, hopefully.